many restaurants and chefs have no idea the salmon they're serving. They think that they're serving wild salmon. Welcome to MarcusG.tv. Hello, I'm Chef Marcus Guiliano, and I'm your chef on a mission. Today's mission is salmon. Farmed salmon specifically. One of the videos on my YouTube channel is trending right now. It's getting like 10 to 20,000 views a day, and it's called The World's Most Toxic Fish, and it talks about several different fish like panga, and then it finishes up with Norwegian salmon. It's not my original content, but it's something that I was sharing on my channel. Documentary done, and it's really going viral. It's great that people are watching, and the comments that are coming in are just amazing because people are educated, they're aware, and people want to make a change in their diet. But unfortunately, not many restaurants out there are allowing us to make a change because they're forced into buying cheap salmon, cheap farmed salmon. There's a store that I go to here locally sometimes called Restaurant Depot. There's a couple things that I do buy in there. Very few things, because a lot of places to go there are diners and other types of restaurants, pizzerias that are just looking for really cheap food. They do stock a couple of things that I do happen to like and that I use on an infrequent basis. My last trip there, they just got their seafood in the local store here. They waited about 5-6 months before they started stocking fresh seafood, and I'm looking at these sides of farmed salmon that are literally like $4, $4.50 a pound. Now, the salmon that we buy is more than double that a pound for wild Alaskan salmon. I'm buying coho salmon. Wild Alaskan king salmon would even be more money, and sockeye is probably a little bit more money than the coho that I'm buying anyway. So when you go on these websites, when you see some of these seafood advocacy groups that are now starting to endorse farmed salmon, it's amazing. Monterey Bay Aquarium all of a sudden started endorsing some of the British Columbia farmed salmon. Folks, there's many problems with farmed salmon. First of all, the whole industry in general, or the majority of the industry in general, just has the wrong business model, has the wrong environmental business model. To take that many salmon and put them in a pen out in the ocean and then try to raise them causes a lot of detrimental damage to the environment and to the wild population of salmon. If you've noticed, or maybe you haven't noticed, that's why I'm here telling you this, that a lot of these salmon farms are placed in the migratory path of wild salmon. So what happens with all that disease, pollution, and feces that gets dumped into the ocean at the salmon farms? It gets spread into the wild population of salmon. So sea lice is a major issue now. Every farm has to contend with sea lice. That's what happens. You pack things that close together, animals that close together, you're going to get disease. So every farm, no matter what farm is out there saying, we don't have sea lice or we don't use antibiotics, they have sea lice, folks. That's just part of the game. Now, there is a way to farm salmon inland in a containment system, which is very effective. But it costs 7 times the amount of money. So instead of spending $1 million, a salmon farm has to spend $7 million to start one of these farms. Now in Norway, because a lot of people think Norwegian salmon is wild. Norway does have wild salmon, folks, but it's not commercially available. There's more farmed salmon that are found in the rivers of Norway than wild salmon, because the farmed salmon escape out of the pens and get to the wild population and then try to compete for the same food source. But farmed salmon, folks, don't reproduce. It's not the same type of fish that's getting out into the wild population, being able to all of a sudden mingle in and help the wild population. It doesn't help the wild population. It's a detriment to the wild population. So some of these salmon farms are saying, well, if you want to save wild salmon, keep eating farmed salmon because that's the answer. And research is showing that's not the answer whatsoever. So let's throw some images up here. Here is a young salmon that has loaded with sea lice. You can see around its gill, and it has some kind of abrasion there. But those are sea lice, and sea lice attach to the baby salmon. What happens is a baby salmon, this isn't a fry. This is, you can see by the person's hand how big this is. But this salmon does indeed have sea lice that it got from, either if this is a wild salmon, it got it from the salmon farms, or if it's a farm salmon, it's in the farm themselves there. So those baby salmon swim past the salmon pens when they're coming out of the rivers, because again, I said they're in the spawning grounds, or they're in the spawning path, the migratory path of the wild salmon. So this swims down, the baby salmon hatch, the real wild salmon hatch in the river and swim downstream and then swim into the ocean and swim past this filth and this sea of sea lice, basically, and it attaches. And once this attaches to the salmon cannot survive. It's just a matter of time before this salmon here itself will be dead. If it is a wild, if it's farm salmon, they will douse it with tons of chemicals. Next up is the sea lice and how they're spreading in Norway. This is a Norwegian river system here. And this is the migratory path of the salmon and the sea lice. And it's there, I mean, you can just see that everything here is contaminated, just contaminated with sea lice. And again, you know, they're the farms, those are the farms, those are the sea lice right there. Here's another disturbing image. Look at this. This thing has a hunk out of the back of its the back of its tail, fin back there, whatever part of the salmon you want to refer to that as, but the back part of the salmon. And this is in the salmon farm, folks. This is, you can see to the right hand side, some of the nets there. This is a salmon that's actually in a farm. Will this make it to somebody's plate? This very well could make it to somebody's plate. I'm not 100% sure. But the salmon are probably attacking this salmon, or this is just some kind of lesion, some kind of infection that has to be, that probably other salmon have as well, that has to be treated. One of the big things is herring. Wild herring flock to the salmon farms, and then all of a sudden, you know, meet their demise with all the pollution, the feces, and the germs. So the wild herring swim into these salmon farms and just the population gets decimated as well. The best way to make a difference, folks, is to totally eliminate farmed salmon from your diet. Now, I know people that know this stuff that I just told you. They know how bad farmed salmon is. They know they shouldn't be eating farmed salmon. When they go to a restaurant, they order the salmon. And I've had conversations over the last 20 years with people. Well, why are you doing that? Oh, because it's the only thing I can really eat here, salmon. And it's, you know, folks, the way that we're going to change this is we're going to stop eating farmed salmon. We're going to stop the nonsense. We're going to stop giving these companies money to do what they do, because they don't really care about the environment. They don't really care about the fish. They don't care about any of this. They just care about their corporate profits. And the Norwegian salmon companies have such a stronghold financially in Canada and in other parts of the world. And that's where the salmon farming originated, folks. It originated in Norway. These companies grew, and now they reach out to other parts of the world where they can own the government, they can get away with stuff, and they don't have to worry about you know, regulations, or they can help set the regulations of their salmon. So no matter what Monterey Bay Aquarium says, no matter what MSC says, no matter what these places say, the industry to begin with is not, it's the whole model is wrong, except for inland containment systems, which very, very, very rarely exist. There's one farm in British Columbia called Kutera, but still you have to feed the fish, pellets. And that's a whole nother video on pellets and what actually goes into pellets and the byproducts. That's a whole nother disaster. So again, the way to solve this problem of eating better food is just don't eat the crap food. Don't eat the farm salmon. When you go to a restaurant, speak up. And a lot of restaurants, not a lot, many restaurants and chefs have no idea the salmon they're serving. They think that they're serving wild salmon, because salmon has got such a bad rap. Such a bad rap, farm salmon, that chefs just think, well, I'm buying wild salmon. It's wild salmon. The salmon looks good. It's wild salmon. So many chefs are just under the assumption this is wild, and they're willing to serve it to you. They're willing to serve it to you and tell you that, hey, this is wild salmon, and really not even question what they're serving and do the research what they're serving. I'm Chef Marcus Guiliano. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, give it a thumbs up. and definitely share it, and leave any comments.